for the sake of saving his life. They boldly accept gallows if there is no alternative left to them. What was the position of Hazrat Ali then, when for some gains, even for a good cause, he sacrificed the very cause for which he fought, and the truth and the principles of truth? So the answer to that, according to the Shias, is only this, and that also is, of course, such a mad answer. They say that this is where taqiyya comes to help. According to this philosophy of taqiyya, a person, according to the Holy Quran, is permitted to tell a lie to save his life or save himself from some embarrassing situation. That is called taqiyya. So if taqiyya is one of the fundamental principles of Islam, and it was adopted by Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu, why didn't he tell his own sons to come under the cover of taqiyya and save such pious innocent blood? They didn't know anything of taqiyya at that time. They could have adopted it. So either their status is much higher than that of Hazrat Ali, or this claim of taqiyya is just a hollow, false claim. There is nothing in it. So Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu has been done the greatest wrong by the so-called followers of Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu. That is Shia Ali. Shia means the follower, the one who follows the footsteps of another person. So Hazrat Ali's character is maligned and destroyed and slaughtered by the Shia claim that for the sake of saving himself and the life of innocent people, he succumbed to the pressure and started believing in false claimants. This is the height of folly, to give one's hand to a false claimant. The height of folly in ordinary circumstances for everybody. Yet for the Imam, who is to save lives, to give his hand into the hands of false claimants is just, unimaginably false and wrong, unacceptable. So there's nothing in Shiaism, in fact. You stick to these two fundamentals, and they can never defeat you in argument. It's impossible for them. Whatever position they take, you can accept. Whatever tradition they present, you accept it without challenge. Yet this position is so untenable. Fundamentally, there is everything wrong about it, that Shias cannot defeat an Ahmadi in debate on these two issues. I've tried it myself many a time before, many years before. Once I remember a Shia scholar from Jhang came, who claimed to be a man of a very high repute and a highly respected person around, and he was quite knowledgeable too. So I said, look here, before wasting our times in rejecting traditions put forward by both the camps, that your tradition is wrong and your tradition is wrong and mine is right, then this is the fight going on for centuries between Sunnis and Shias. Let us first discuss the very philosophy, the fundamentals of Shiaism, and these were the 2 points raised by me. So, because he was a very knowledgeable person, he didn't take those untenable positions which are generally taken by ordinary ignorant people among Shias. So he listened to me and he said, look here, when I have an answer, I'll come again, and after investigation, I'll meet you again. And I waited until I came to London this time. He never returned.
These some of knowledgeable and good-natured, gentlemanly Shias, they offer an explanation, and they say that Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they were true Khalifas, but they separate Khilafat from Imamat. And they say that Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu remained an Imam all the way through, though he was not Khalifa. So he was the fourth Khalifa.
But this position is not taken by the Shia clergy because they think it is kufr to say that. And they know why. Because an imamat, the post of imamat according to them is in instances even higher than Nabuwwat. Not to mention Khilafat. Because according to their claims, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was made prophet before he was made Imam. And while he was a prophet, it was promised to him by Allah that he would make you also into an Imam, which was a high status according to him. So how can they believe that a true Imam is rejected by a Khalifa and he accepts him as his Khalifa? If it is possible, then why didn't he accept Hazrat Muawiyah as well? 3 times before he had committed that, and in the 4th instance ultimately he repented and changed his position. Nothing is tenable in Shia philosophy, as I told you. It doesn't hold water.
Islam's shahadat at Karbala, Iraq, you see. Now, that is a very deplorable for all the Muslims throughout the world. Now, what is very tragic, it is very extremely tragic, no doubt, sir. What I say now, that he was related towards Arab, to Hijaz at that time, then to Kufa and Iraq. Now this Shiaism spreaded to that side. And the second point what I wanted is, one of the Shia friends was telling that Shimur was not asked to behead the Hazrat Imam Hussein, but he did it on himself when he has taken his head before Yazid. So he was rebuked.
Do the Shia say that?
Well, one of the Shia friends, that's what I wanted.
This is not
that's
the position generally adopted.
Yes,
I mean, this is the first time I am hearing it, that Shias can take such a position. In fact, they even go further than Yazid. They say all was done at the behest of the Caliph himself. You know? So this is what they believe. So they condemn them all roundly, completely. If this position is accepted that Shimr did it on his own behalf, then even Yazid is absolved. Everybody else is absolved.
That's they say that he was starting beating his chest, and that's why they have started this this Shias have started beating their chest and this and that.
I know, but this is not the position adopted generally by the Shias.
I think that question remains that why it is not towards Hijaz and why it has gone to this Kufa and Iran. So that's what my point, first point.
What has gone to which direction, that I couldn't follow.
No, what I was saying that Hazrat Imam Hussein's shahadat, no doubt it is very tragic. But I say that
during that time, the capital of Islam was divided. Hazrat Ali Karramallahu Wajhahu remained seated in one place, and Hazrat Amir Muawiyah shifted his capital to another place. And Medina was no longer the capital of Islam. That was the position. Capital in this sense that of course Medina occupies a very special position which can never be taken away from it by anyone. So that is but that is a theoretical position. In reality, in facts, a capital of